Hey, it's Frank Kellogg here from Kellogg Fitness, and I want to talk about squatting. Squatting is a really good exercise if you do it right, because it's actually full body, it's all of the legs, and when you're holding the weight, you got the upper body working really hard to stabilize. But a lot of the times there's some mistakes that happen when squatting. For example, from the front, sometimes people's stances are a little too narrow, and when they squat, the knees kind of go inwards like that. Right? That's not good. Sometimes they're a little bit too pigeon-toed and the knees are going way out like that. You don't want too much of that either. You get a little bit too much strain on the inner hip. Those are good maybe for like stretching 5 times, getting down into a stretch, because they do that in yoga. Another problem you sometimes see is when someone squats is they lean forward a lot, right? You don't want to have that either. And then the fourth problem I see is when they squat, is they're squatting and then the heels are coming up and then the knees are going over the toes, right? Which you don't want when you have weights. Sometimes that's good for stretching or other sort of things, but that's a different story. So the solution to the first problem of the knees going inwards like this, sometimes you should get like a nice light, just a light resistance band, right? It doesn't have to be too heavy, just something. It's an outside stimulus to communicate with that muscle group. So obviously you have to fight against the band now, right? So you're gonna have that tactile cue. So it's gonna be the outside glutes. It's the outside glutes that rotate the hips outward, right? So now my toes are like at a little bit of a W. If you look down and you visualize a W, and now when I squat, I'm pushing my knees out against the band, right? So now my knees are going out at a slight angle, right? So this is where I want to be usually, right? Then I come back up. Remember, not like this. That's too much, right? Just like this, right? And you can do this when you're holding the weight, right? If you're doing a back squat, right? You can get down here like this as well, all right? But you want to correct everything going on with the ankles, knees, and hips, all right? So the second problem, having the knees going too far out, really it's an easy fix. See my feet? I kind of got my feet at this really like inward angle. So you really just have to adjust the foot position, right? All right, and then you're not, if you do that, it feels too awkward, you won't even want to do it, right? You don't want your knees going out past that line, right? So your knees are kind of tracking over the big toe and the toe right next to the big toe, right? Just like this. That's an easy fix. All right, so the next problem was this over lean forward, right? Now that's actually an exercise. It's a good morning. You're kind of hitting your hinge position. You're hitting your hamstrings and glutes. That's not what we want to do with the squat. So if I'm doing this, right, with a weight, it may not be good for my lower back, right? Well, it definitely isn't if you're not activating the glutes properly. So we want to hit that squat. We want to be upright as we do it. So one thing you can do is get up close to a wall, okay? Really close to the wall. You can start maybe not so close, right? And then just get into the squat. So when you hinge forward, you're gonna hit your head. You're not really gonna hit your head, but you'll get closer to the wall, right? So you'll kind of be forced to stay upright, okay? Now if you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is about as far as I can go, then you come back up, okay? Work the partial range of the motion until every now and then you're able to get lower and lower, right? Eventually you'll be able to be really close, your body will be able to be upright. You also want to keep this nice and flat and make sure you don't have any of that butt winking motion either. So the fourth problem with squats sometimes you see is people start squatting, right? The knees are coming over the toes and the heels are coming up, okay? No good, especially if you have weight. Sometimes that can be good. Sometimes you'll see things like that in yoga classes. I'm not a yoga teacher, so I won't be telling you to do that, especially while you're lifting weights. The reason why that happens is the ankles can sometimes be stiff, right? So if my ankle can come up and really flex up, I'll be able to get down. And if my knees go over the toes a little bit, sometimes that's fine as long as I have the proper flexion and if the weight is still over the midline of the foot, okay? And then I come back up, all right? Now if going below parallel like that hurts, then you don't do it. I actually don't do it when I'm barbell squatting and things like that, but you still want to work the ankle mobility. So what you want to do is with the ankle, again, if you have a wall here, right, is work that ankle mobility. So I'm here, I'm pushing the knee over the toes. It's okay in this situation because I'm not putting pressure in the knee, I'm putting the pressure into the wall. So my knee is able to go past the toes without actual pressure being put into it. But what I'm getting is the ankle flexion stretch, right? Because the more I can flex my ankle back like that, the better I'll be able to squat, because this is what the ankle does during the squat. Now sometimes I'm just gonna switch. You'll notice that if you try to tap the knee to the wall, the heel might come up. So now you've identified how far you can go with that stretch. So what you do is you just kind of stop just short of the heel coming up, right? Because we don't want to strain anything before we work out, okay? We're not straining anything, all right? As soon as it starts coming up, you've gone a little too far. Over time, you should get more range of motion in the ankle. If you do not, obviously there might be a condition or whatever you want to talk to a physical therapist or doctor for, all right? And the last thing you can do, I don't have a plate handy, but what you can do is you can actually you can elevate the heels, getting like a plank of wood or like a barbell, not a barbell, but a plate for a barbell. So when you squat, there will actually be something under the heel. So you'll be able to do this, right? Just imagine a piece of wood or something under the heel, and you'll be able to place weight into the heels, which actually kind of helps you put weight into the hips a little more, and alleviates pressure on the knees, because the whole foot is able to take on the load. So that's how we do that.